Hi everyone, it's Mr. Bestvater, and I will be introducing the topic of home finance. Now, buying a home is probably going to be one of the largest investments you'll ever make in your life. It's going to take a great deal of your money and your income to invest in your home. And for that reason, we want to take a detailed look at the costs involved and how to make the greatest advantage of all of the expenses so that you can pay less for that home than you maybe need to. And so for that reason, we're going to take a look at a whole lot of topics, including what is a mortgage, how much is it going to cost you, as well as how to take the best advantage of your mortgage expenses or your mortgage costs. And we're also going to take a look at property insurance and property taxes. That's something else that has to be done. And finally, that big whole package of when you buy a home, all the little costs that even me as a first-time home buyer, I had no idea, and I learned. So hopefully we'll give you a bit of information that way from one of the best investments you'll ever make in your life. But let's begin with the mortgage payment, that monthly payment that you're going to make to pay off your loan. So we'll take a look at that. All right, so we're in the first lesson of home finance, and we're going to take a look at mortgages. Now again, buying your home is likely going to be one of the most costly endeavors you're going to do in your life. Houses are expensive. And a lot of us are going to need to borrow a lot of money in order to buy that home. And we're going to try to find ways to save money along the way. You can save a great deal of money by understanding all the costs involved in home ownership, including your mortgage payments, your closing costs, which we'll look at later on, ongoing costs to make sure your home stays in good shape, and the cost of maintaining your home. People with a good understanding of these concepts can save themselves thousands of dollars over the life of a mortgage. So a mortgage is just simply that word we use to describe a loan or to name a loan for a home. And if you really want to go into where the word comes from, basically when you sign a mortgage, it comes from the word mortal, which means your life, your mortal self. Your mortgage is actually you signing your line, signing on the dotted line, your life, that you will pay back this money, because it typically is a large amount of money. And a lot of people don't have that kind of security they need to go against their loans. So you're signing your life. So the olden days, long days ago, if you couldn't pay off your mortgage, you might become somebody's slave until you are able to pay it back. Nowadays, it doesn't quite work that way. Slavery has long been abolished, but that's where that word comes from. You're signing your life. It is really important that you take these kinds of decisions seriously and think about them carefully. Now, there's a few pieces of information we need to figure out what is our monthly mortgage payment. And we're going to go with monthly because that's a common way to pay off your mortgage, is to make monthly payments. We need to know how much money you're going to borrow. So it comes from how much that home is going to cost. You subtract from that how much you're able to make as a down payment, and we'll talk about that in a bit. How much will I need to pay each month? How long will it take me to pay it off? Is it going to take me 20 years, 25 years, or longer? What is the interest rate? Because the interest rate impacts how much I pay each month or how long it takes me to pay it off. Okay? How much will this cost in the end? These are all good pieces of information. At its core, the formula for calculating the monthly mortgage payment is quite simple. We're going to use a table where we're going to derive a value. We're going to multiply it by the principal and then divide by the number 1,000. So it's just a simple multiply and divide. All right, so some key terms. What is the principal? When we're talking about a mortgage, a principal is the amount borrowed. So if you go to a bank or a financial institution, say, I'd like to borrow $100,000 to buy this house, that would be called your principal. Now, you might also use the word the amount financed. I'm going to use that word now because you're probably going to see something like the person financed $125,000. And sometimes the principal might refer to how much money you owe. or how much money is owed. So as you're moving along and you're been paying off your mortgage for a few years, how much money you still owe or how much is still owed might be referred to as your principal. The amortization period. The amortization period is how long the loan is. So it would be referred to as the time period to pay off the mortgage. Okay, so how long will it take? I'll put that in brackets. How long will it take? Now, if you're borrowing money for a car, it might be 4 years or 5, maybe 6 or 7. When you're borrowing money to buy a house, it might be 15, 18, 20, 25 years to pay it off. That length of time, how many years it takes to pay it off, is the amortization period. Now, you'll see the word interest twice. One as interest rate and one as interest. Interest rate is a percent. Okay? So it is the rate at which the interest is being paid. Or maybe I could say the interest is being charged. So the bank will charge you an interest rate and you will pay appropriate dollar values to match that interest rate. The interest itself is a dollar value. And once we do a few calculations and read a few examples, you'll see the difference. Interest is the dollar amount. This is how much money paid to borrow how much money is paid to borrow the principal. There we go. That's a good word. Okay, so interest rate is a percent and interest is a dollar value, how much money you pay. Sometimes this is known as, this interest, the dollar amount, is sometimes known as the cost of borrowing. So if you're reading some financial information or some financial information, they might talk about the COB, the cost of borrowing. Okay, that's how much money extra you're going to pay back. All right. Here's an example for us to use. Brian wants to buy a house that costs $160,000. He has a down payment of $35,000, and the bank is willing to give him a fixed mortgage of 7.25% over an amortization period of 25 years. What are his monthly payments? So the first step is to find the principal. Now the principal is the amount you're borrowing. So first off, we're going to take the cost of the house, which is $160,000, and we'll subtract the $35,000 that he has as a down payment. He's already saved $35,000 for purchasing the home and has decided to use that to make the first $35,000 payment on the house, and he's going to have to borrow the rest. Okay, so that's what fancy dancy calculators are for. 160,000 subtract 35,000 makes 125,000. So the amount of the mortgage, or the principal, you can say it either way, is $125,000. How much will Brian need to borrow? Brian needs to borrow $125,000. Now to calculate the monthly mortgage payment, that's the second step. We're going to use the table, and you'll find this in your booklet. Maybe you'll have a second copy. I have a second copy that's free, and I made it yellow. And this is the amortization table. Remember I said we're going to look for a value from the table. This is from the first page. Value from the table. Here's the amortization table. Now the table has percents down the side. That's your interest rate as a percent, and the amortization periods across the top. Okay, 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 25. Now 15, 20, and 25 would be most common. 30 would be quite rare already, and a mortgage of less than 15 years is actually quite rare as well, because that means you have a lot of your money ready to go to pay for that large house, or maybe you have a large amount of money saved. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to match the interest rate and the amortization period. Let's see what information we have. So going back to Brian, okay, we're going to use the chart 7.25% and 25 years. So you can see in the original question, the bank is willing to give him a fixed mortgage rate of 7.25% over an amortization period of 25 years. Okay, so 7.25% is right here. And maybe I can zoom in a little bit. 7.25% is there, and this is 5 years, 10, 15, 20. There's our number we're looking for. Oops, I went too far. It's not in camera range anymore. Let me try again. 7.25%, 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 25. There it is. 7.23. Okay, so hopefully you found that on your table. 7.23. So the value from the table multiplied by the principal is how much money we're borrowing, 125,000, and we're going to divide that by 1,000. Now, just to make sure we got this right, your mortgage payment is the value from the table we're going to multiply it by the principal and divide it by 1,000. Monthly mortgage payment. There it is. Write it out once or twice and you'll probably remember it. Okay, 7.23. That came from the table. Okay, we looked down 25 years and we went across 7.25%. Sorry, my hand is in the way. We went across 7.25%. We went down 25 years and we've got the number 7.23. Multiply 7.23 by $125,000. Divide that by 1,000. Okay, so 7.23 times 125,000 is equal to that amount of money. But now we'll divide by 1,000 because that's our monthly payment. $903.75. 903.75. All right, moving on to the last type of question you might have to solve is calculate the total amount paid over the amortization period. Okay, what that means is if I put together all of my monthly payments, and we already determined that our monthly payments are $903.75. If I put together all of my monthly payments, how much money have I paid to the bank or to the financial institution? Okay, well, first off, there's a couple of ways we can do this. The total amount can be calculated this way. We're going to take the monthly payment and we're going to multiply it by the number of years, no years, for the number of years, and then we're going to multiply it by 12 months per year. Just simply because every year has 12 months. Okay, so the monthly payment is $903.75. We're going to multiply that for 25 years because that's what Brian got. It was Brian, right? Yep. I'm looking at the top of the page. Yep, Brian. Brian had his mortgage for 25 years and he's going to pay that 12 times each year. What is our grand total? Well, tried to save myself a little bit of time. I left my value in here, 903.75. If I multiply that by 25 and then by 12, grand total, $271,125. What? Let's write that down again. $271,125. Okay, hold on a second. That's a lot of money. But I only borrowed $125,000. And I'm going to pay back $271,000? Yep, that's because of this thing called interest. And that leads us to the next question here. Calculate the total amount, calculate the total interest paid. There we go, that's what I was looking for. Calculate the total interest paid. Now this interest here, we really mean the dollar value of interest. Okay, how many dollars of interest has Brian paid? Okay, so we're going to take the total amount paid, that's this value here, and we're going to subtract the amount that he borrowed. So he paid $271,125 back to the bank after 25 years. That's the accumulation of all of those monthly payments that he made. And we're going to subtract the amount that was borrowed. That's $125,000. Okay. And again, I saved myself a little bit of time. It's still on the display of my calculator. 271,125. Subtract $125,000. That's $146,125. 146,000. Sorry if my pencil broke. $125. Okay. That is the amount of interest. Or as I said earlier, that is the cost of borrowing. So your financial institution is saying thank you for borrowing $125,000 from us, because in the end they're going to get their $125,000 back and $146,125. That's a lot of money. And for those reasons, we want to be very careful in how we set up our mortgages so that we can minimize the amount of interest we pay. Some interest we will have to pay. That is true, because we're going to have to borrow the money. That is true. But we'll try to make this as small a number as possible. And we'll show you different ways in future lessons. So that's the end of the learning material for lesson number 1. I believe there are some assignment questions to do, so you can get started on those, and we'll see you for lesson 2. Until then, bye-bye.